the creation of a Sahelian criminal and human rights court. Ladies and gentlemen, fellow Africans around the world, welcome to Stream Dialogue. This is long overdue. For years, Africans, have been judged based on other people's values, you know, bogusly around the world through various international organizations that we see just used to prosecute our people, prosecute Africans. It's used as a, intimidation tactic by, you know, we know the powers that be that want to keep Africans in check whenever we try to step out of bounds. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Stream Dialogue. So today we will discuss, a few points, 4 points, four main points why this is really good for Africans, and this is you know, a blueprint for the rest of the continent to follow, or maybe even join later. So thank you for coming. The first point I want to discuss is that this court will definitely be a court that judge based on African values, African culture, African way of life. So for years we see African politicians and so forth being dragged to human rights court, whether they are good or bad, but they are judged by standards set by others. So there are crimes that there's things that are crime that should be crime, that have been committed against African, but others don't deem it to be crime. So this is a really good thing for us. The second point, this criminal court, human rights court, is a good thing to prosecute the true criminals in Africa. Those who are at the head of states, those who are at head of states of Africa, of African countries, maybe even the Caribbean, of institutions that commit egregious crime against Africans. Those who are corrupt, those who work in bed with imperialists to destabilize another country or destabilize even the AES. So this is a very good development for leaders who want to, act up. This court can indict those leaders. Those leaders who maybe will not be able to travel to, you know, allies of the AES, or those who join the AES. So this is a really good and welcome. The third point is those those who support atrocities against African people will be, can be prosecuted and indicted by this, court. People can submit, their claims to these court to this court. Those who support like terrorism in the region, there's been a lot of accusation, even evidence being put out, especially from the Nigerian president, general of the army, Assimi, not Assimi, but General Chiani, put out damning evidence against, Nigeria, countries like Nigeria and Benin, you know, seeing these people being prosecuted, and even these terrorists. We have a lot of um, terrorist leaders, terror chiefs being captured. They can be prosecuted, even prosecuted live on, live broadcast, so they can confess and, show us where they get their training, their funding, who supports them, what direction, directives they receive to attack the AES. So also regional states as well, international states can be implicated, can be indicted through this. We see African leaders, states being indicted for all kinds of crime. We saw Bagbo taken to the ICC for crimes that we found out that they themselves, the ICC said we found nothing, found that he committed no crime, but still he spent years he spent years in prison, in prison for for crimes he did not commit, because he dared to oppose the French imperialists, like, quoted Nicolas Sarkozy. He was vitrified, so, and even NGOs, we know a lot of these NGOs are not there to really help, do what they say they're doing. They're basically, doing the dirty work of the imperialists. So this is a very welcome, you know, development. Like I said, this is, if you look at it, is very inhumane what has been done to Africans throughout the centuries, even in recent time. No one have been really prosecuted for the crimes committed against Africans and African people. African, we can lodge any complaint against in the UN or the ICC. No one will take our claim seriously. We saw, you know, we see what's going on in the world. The ICC is basically politicized. Well, it has been exposed to be politicized by the rest of the world, but it has always been this way. Always been used against Africans. Always been used against people who, defy the imperialists in the global south. You know, I think with this new criminal court and human rights courts in the Sahel, maybe in the future, people, let's say in the Caribbean, can lodge a complaint against someone who's been maybe a head of state or something that has been committing crime against African people, or a state that has been committing crime against African people in the future. So this is a really good development. And the final point we wanted to make was that Africans can lodge complaint against those who have committed, especially those who are non-Africans that have committed, atrocities against Africans. I give you a perfect example. In Senegal, African troops were massacred by the French, who whose only crime was, whose only demand was to get their fair compensation for fighting, defeating the Germans in World War II. African soldiers were massacred in Senegal, and we saw, the Macronian accepted. He tried to apologize, and these people normally don't play their atrocities against Africans. Maybe the people of the DRC can lodge a complaint against the Belgians or even the Rwandese. Well, not the Rwandese, but the Rwandese regime, who have been supported by the Anglo-Saxons too. They have been oppressing the people of the Congo for decades now. So, you know, something like this is a welcome development. We're happy to see this. Please give us your thoughts, on all this development. So this is a new African Renaissance. We're here to support it. We're here to, you know, analyze what we see. Thank you very much.